You're listening to The Main Event with Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. on WHIP.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
And we're back here, WHIP Radio. Time in the studio is 11:16. Had to play a little Beatles just to calm down my blood pressure as I've been screaming through the first 15 minutes of the show as Temple does not get into the NCAA Tournament. They'll play Wednesday night up against Bucknell in the first round of the NIT. Make sure you get down to the stadium at the Liacouras Center and show your support for your Temple Owls. But now joining us in the studio is the head man for your Temple Owls, and that is Coach Fran Dunphy. Coach, great to see you. Chase and Zach, you know us. How are you?
Doing okay, Zach. We're a little wounded, I would say. Our squad is, they felt a little empty last night. Now we have to get it back together and have a good practice today and tomorrow and prepare for Bucknell.
So take me through the emotions from a coaching standpoint before the selection show comes on, then when you find out that you're not getting in, and then what you told your team after that. Just take me through those sequence of events.
Well, I think there is such a tremendous range of emotions. On a personal note, I had a very difficult time watching the show, so I walked around the gym while the players were in the locker room with the coaches and what have you. It's just too gut-wrenching for me at that point. So, and I should have told the players they could have done the same thing too. If it was too gut-wrenching for them, they could have. But I didn't. I let them stay together because I think that's what teams should do. In any event. I walked around the gym, and my phone didn't blow up, and Larry Dock and Jeff Wilson didn't come and get me on my walk. I knew that we were in a little bit of trouble, so it was disappointing. And then when we talked, we talked about did we need one more win, specifically Saturday against SMU. If we had gotten that win, then we would have not brought politics into the situation as it appears. So. And then after that, I was okay. I was okay when I talked to the guys, and then maybe for an hour or so afterwards. And then when I heard the one comment from one of the maybe the committee chair that the eye test was important, I'm not sure I get that. So that's kind of where I am. And yet, we all have to get over it. It didn't happen for us, disappointingly. And again, for the students, the alums, and the school itself, as well as our team, I'm disappointed. The eye test to me is a cop-out. I will agree with that, and I really do believe when you look at your resume, 23-10, an RPI of 34, 8-8 in the top 100, and you blew Kansas out of the gym, and they have an RPI of 2 when you had that 25-point record. The one logical explanation I can make out of this, and I want to see if you agree with it, is that last year SMU doesn't get in when they were a top 25 team. What happens? The AAC ends up winning the national championship game with UConn taking down the trophy and cutting down the nets last year. This year, only 2 AAC teams get in. Obviously, you and Tulsa are on the wrong side of the bubble. Does the AAC have respect in the selection committee's eyes? That's a good question. I can't answer that. But, we need, as far as I can only talk about Temple and what Temple needs to do, and certainly for us, we needed one more win and how it played out. Do I agree with everything that went on? And again, you have to think that they're doing their homework, that they have every piece of data that is available. Do they know that, against Tulsa, Will Cummings goes down in the second half and we don't survive that game? The next game where he does play but is sort of a shell of himself. Do they have that data? Does it matter? Interesting to see what goes on in that committee room, and they talk about it all the time at different meetings. At our conference meetings, they'll say, okay, this is really what goes on. Somebody asked me, is it your strength of schedule? I said, we can't do any better strength of schedule. And next year, we're playing the University of North Carolina in our first game. We're going to Wisconsin. We're going to be in a terrific Puerto Rico tournament. So we do whatever we can in terms of that. And I thought we represented ourselves well enough to get the invite, but it's not the way it went down.
Coach Fran Dunphy is our guest right now on the Main Event WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Temple does not get into the NCAA Tournament. And Coach, I thought you said something yesterday that was great, and this is why you're one of the best in the business. You said if this is one of the worst days in these players' lives, then they're going to have pretty good lives. But this is a big moment for these guys. There's nothing better than getting into the NCAA Tournament as a student athlete. But how do you get them to bounce back and shift their focus for a first-round NIT game against Bucknell? Because that's got to be difficult for these guys when their emotions are kind of hit.
Yeah, and we have a couple days to gather those emotions and say, you know what, we're still pretty lucky. There are a number of teams out there that are very jealous of us. We're still playing college basketball, and that's what we do. We're not worried about the opposition at this point. We're worried about playing basketball, and we're at this point we're playing Bucknell, who I like a lot. I like their team, and we'll certainly worry about them when the time comes. But right now we're worried about our players and what's best for them. And yeah, you're right. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience, and they're going to remember this for the rest of their lives and the disappointment that they had. Now, if that can motivate them and propel them to be the best that they can be at whatever they do for a living, and hopefully most of them will be really good husbands and really good fathers and really good community people that will give back as much as they possibly can. But it's a hurtful thing. There's no question about it. But we have to learn from it.
Temple lost 22 games just a season ago. The 22 losses were the most in the program's history. And to come back and win 23 games this year is a monumental feat. I know you expected the team to be much better this year. You're on the record as saying that. But did you expect the upheaval in wins to go from 9 to 23?
I don't know that as a coach, you don't put numbs on it. You don't go down and say, okay, this is on the left side, this is on the right side. You just, you worry about the opposition that's there in front of you. But I'm pleased with where we are and what this particular group has done. Again, the disappointment jumps in there because you're not in the big tournament, but we have still the opportunity to play and to show people that we are a good basketball team. So that'll be the motivation for our guys. We can compete, and that's what we do.
And you've been coaching for so long. This is really the first weekend that you had a team on the bubble. Can you personally learn anything from this moving forward?
Well, on a personal note, no, because I was worried each and every game. Mm-hmm. After I was worried at SMU and at Tulsa when we played there after we had come off of 7 straight wins, and I knew each game was critical. And then after we came back home, the next 4 games were critical. To beat Memphis was critical. We just needed to beat SMU, and we wouldn't be having this conversation today. We'd be all celebrating the dancing that we would have done, but that didn't happen for us. So what I want really is for the players to learn as much as they can that every possession counts.
Just going off that as Fran Dunphy joins us in studio right now. Temple is not going to the NCAA Tournament. They'll play Bucknell in the first round of the NIT Wednesday at the Liacouras Center. Tip is at 7 p.m. You could go to the game or listen to it right here on WHIP. Pregame coverage starts at 6:30. Just going off of the whole SMU point that you brought up, and I understand Will wasn't 100% the first time you guys played him, but you guys still weren't able to capitalize on 13-point leads, 10-point leads that were in the second half, and then you even took a 2-point lead going into the game the other day. What can you guys do better when it comes to X's and O's going up against a very tough SMU team?
We can make better shot selection and then make more shots. We can do a better job of checking out. I thought they got a couple of second chance opportunities on us. I think they're a really, really good basketball team, and we're very worthy of being a high seed, although I was a little surprised that their seed wasn't higher than it is. So if we're going to beat SMU, we have to play just about our best basketball, and we did for 30 minutes the first time, for maybe 30-some minutes the second time, and probably 25 minutes the third time. So we have to finish the game out. There's no question about that. So we have only ourselves to blame in that situation.
Will is the perfect definition of what a Temple athlete is, just from when he first came into the university and now to what he has become, being a 1,000-point scorer, a tremendous teammate both on and off the court. And last year he said he couldn't even watch the NCAA tournament. I would have to imagine your senior guard, you'd have to have a conversation with him privately, just because he definitely takes this one really tough not getting to the NCAA tournament, because that's what he's talked about all year, getting to that point. How'd the conversation with Will go, if you did have one?
We had a little texting back and forth because I wasn't sure what our situation was when I left those guys. And then I knew we were going to find out at 8:30 or so, and just texted with him last night. Said, you know what, we've got Bucknell on Wednesday. Let's make it the best game we can possibly play. And he acknowledged that. So, again, the nice thing is we'll be able to see these guys at practice over the next couple of days and prepare for the next opportunity that we have. And that's the only thing we can concern ourselves with.
Coach Fran Dunphy is kind enough to join us this morning on WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia. Temple students can pick up tickets starting today at noon for that Wednesday matchup against Bucknell. Working off that last question, Coach.
For free of charge, by the way.
For free of charge, of course. Nothing better than that.
Nice of you guys to do that.
For
Great
a
job,
Brooke
Larry
College
Doc.
student. Where does Will rank among some of the best players that you've coached on the court wise and off the court? Because he is just a class act and one of the favorite athletes that I've covered here at Temple.
Well, as I said the other day, I mean, not only has he had a terrific basketball career, but he's had an outstanding academic career, and he's done everything that you would ask a student athlete to do. Larry Doc will have him in the interview room and come out of there saying, Will does a terrific job with his presentation. He says all the right things. He pushes all the right buttons. He's been a tremendous kid for us to have in the program. The problem is we're going to have to let him go back to his other life in a couple more months, and that'll be disappointing. We will certainly miss him.
Before we let you run, as Fran Dunphy joins us, I know you got to run and do a few other interviews today. The NIT, obviously now the way that Lenardi, Jerry Palm hype up the NCAA tournament, every team wants to get to the NCAA tournament, and some people over the years have devalued the NIT. When you think of the NIT, just what do you think of?
Well, it used to be different than it is now.
Yeah, no question.
But at this point, I think of opportunity. And I think of another chance for our team to gather, to get better, to help our younger players moving forward for next year, and that they will keep this in their craw and say, you know what, this was unjust and unfair, but life is unjust and unfair sometimes, and you have to learn to deal with it. So a great lesson learned by our student athletes at this point.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up, by the way. Today was the Coaches vs. Cancer breakfast. Obviously, that whole organization and foundation is very dear to your heart. I heard your speech when you won AAC Coach of the Year, mentioning Coach Will Smith and that whole story. How was today at the Coaches breakfast with Coaches vs. Cancer?
Well, it was a great crowd, very supportive crowd of what it is that we try to do with our Coaches vs. Cancer program. We raised some significant dollars, but there's a really terrific stories at each and every table. The one that kind of stole everybody's hearts was a woman by the name of Jackie Neary, who coaches field hockey and lacrosse at Cabrini College. So obviously a local product, and did a wonderful job in her presentation today, and thanking everybody, and kind of made an analogy of, don't stop, and one more day, one more play. And so we were grateful for Jackie to give to us a message that we all need to hear all the time, that life won't be kind to you sometimes, and you need to move on, and you need to fight like crazy.
Well, Coach, that's very kind words from you, and we appreciate you sharing that story and coming in today. Thanks so much, and best of luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully the Temple Owls get to the NIT Finals and cut down the nets in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and keep talking to those students and having them come to the game. That'll be a big help to us.
We will.
Thanks,
Cherry
Coach.
Crusade, get those rollout signs together. Let's get them creative, let's get them funny, and pack the Liacouras
Full
Center
force on
Wednesday night. All right, time in the studio right now is 11:30. That's Coach Fran Dunphy, who was just kind enough to join us. We'd like to thank Larry Doc as well. But we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break. 215-204-WHIP is the number, 215-204-9447. We want to hear from you. Open up the phone lines. Tell us why you are annoyed why Temple didn't get into the NCAA tournament. And if you are one of those idiots out there that thought Temple's fate was correct and they should be in the NIT, we want to hear from you as well, because I want to embarrass you verbally on air. 11:30 is the time. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.